Welcome everybody to tonight's episode of the No Nonsense Naturopath Live. I am here tonight and every week to offer you simple and straightforward ways to incorporate healthy habits. Tonight we have an incredible special guest that I love working with dearly. Technical difficulty, there you go. We have Margie Dangerfield, who is tonight cracking the endometriosis code for us. But before we do that, I'm going to do some housekeeping, if I may. So firstly, what do I have to tell you? Big things happening in the No Nonsense Naturopath world. Keep an eye on your emails for a special message from me. But before we start all the special stuff, I would like you to, where is my check-in button? It is time to check in. If you would please go to your favorite social media site, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and check into the No Nonsense Naturopath Live. Take a photo of what you're doing, what you're shoveling in your mouth if you're eating dinner, the screen, your surroundings, the cat sitting on your lap, whatever you'd like to take a photo of. Maybe a quick note. Checking into No Nonsense Naturopath Live helps support the show so that we can get it out to many more people. It's coming, I promise. The Thrive Her portal is close to being launched. It is a platform for women, providing expert advice, education on how you can maximize your health and reinvent your life, combined with a supportive community of women where you can interact and support each other. It is time for you all to register for the launch party. There will be a party, there will be prizes. I will put a copy of the link for you to register in the comments section as we're listening tonight. Just a quick quote, and I think this quote is particularly important for the warriors that are women with endometriosis. It is absolutely a journey, and the journey that we're about to take you on tonight may seem like a journey of 1,000 miles, but it does begin with this single step. And some of the solutions that Margie's going to discuss to you tonight, I use personally in clinic and have done for quite a few years now, and it is revolutionizing the way I help my women with endometriosis. So ponder that. It only takes a single step. So hands together, albeit electronically, for Margie. Margie Dangerfield is a registered nurse midwife and now spends her time educating women on all things women's health, really. And she's passionate about helping people enjoy a happy and healthy lifestyle through preventative healthcare. So I am going to pass you over to Margie.
Well, thank you, Rochelle. And it's a real privilege to be here. I really want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to share the work that I'm doing in this space. And I've got a PowerPoint presentation prepared. So I'm going to run through that with you. And by all means, people can ask questions, take notes, and also reach out to you if they have any questions.
I may have just made a technical error there.
Yes, what's happened?
You're there you go. Sorry. Yep.
Okay. So can everyone see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So as Rochelle mentioned, I am a registered nurse, a midwife. I'm also a hypnobirthing educator. And for the last 5 years, I was been using this concept that I'm going to explain to you in the IVF space, because I've worked in the IVF space for 14 years and have been using this product for 5. And the results that we have seen is truly transforming the lives of so many women with endometriosis. So you may or may not know that endometriosis is actually a chronic inflammatory condition. It's an estrogen-driven inflammatory condition, and it's extremely debilitating for many women that have been diagnosed with this condition. And it actually affects 1 in 7 women in Australia. And that's extraordinary because the numbers are, the prevalence is much higher. When I first started in the IVF space, working in the IVF space, it used to be 1 in 9. So there's higher prevalence of this condition happening. And we're also seeing it in much younger age groups as well. So it's really a condition that can cause enormous amounts of debilitating symptoms. And as you can see, I'll briefly explain for those people who don't know, but it's where tissue similar to normal uterine lining grows, but it invades area outside of the uterus, so all around the pelvis, all sorts of areas where it's not meant to be. And the bleeding takes place, and it can cause a lot of inflammation and scar tissue that starts to interfere with normal bodily functions and organs, and also reduces mobility. So the symptoms, if you are an endo warrior, you know that it can be affect all aspects of your life, not being able to work, interfere with relationships, sexual activities, and also just and relationships as well. So because it does affect people's ability to function on a day-to-day basis, which can impact mental health as well. So it's really interesting, Rochelle, because we know that there's millions of dollars poured into research, and the science is developing at a rapid rate, and we're looking for some answers and solutions to endometriosis. But at the same time, we know these conditions are increasing. So it's a really interesting discussion. It's getting a lot of media publicity at the moment because they are putting millions of dollars into looking for solutions. And, on average, it takes about 7 years for people to come to be diagnosed with this condition. So during the course of that time, I think it's really important that we share solutions for these women. So whether you have a diagnosis or not, you may just have period pain. But I'm going to talk about the solution that I've know that is working for so many women, and that I've had the privilege of using when I was working in the IVF space with fertility specialists. And that is looking at inflammatory markers. And it's really interesting because it's not recognized at this stage as one of the pathology tests for GPs, or routinely in infertility for the women that may have been diagnosed. Now, we know that this is something that is a very easy test to do. It's designed, we have a test that's a home test you can do, and we know that we're looking at essential fatty acids, and that is an omega-6 and 3. I'll talk about those in a moment. But if you have a high ratio, a high omega-6 ratio, that means that you have chronic inflammatory stress. So you are pro-inflammatory. And for women that have endometriosis, about 30 to 50% of these women go on and have IVF treatment. So this tips the balance against fertility, because in order to have a successful pregnancy, we need a climate of immunological tolerance, and that means low inflammation. So this is an area that we can look into and understand that you can take control of this aspect of your health. So we're going to look at diet in particular, and we know there's been enormous amounts of studies and trials and research and investigations into food and how that impacts dysmenorrhea, painful periods, okay? So, and specifically what I want to talk to you about tonight is the use of omega-3. So it's an omega-3 fatty acid, it's an essential fatty acid, and we know that these women who have optimal omega-3 values have a reduction in their pain. So this is really interesting. So what we're really talking about here is using food as your medicine and medicine as food. And that's what we like to think about with this concept that Zinzino have come up with. So let's just talk briefly about the ratio I mentioned before, omega-6 to 3. So our DNA, we were designed to have 1 part omega-6 and 1 part omega-3. Now, omega-6 comes mainly from seed oils. So, canola oil, we can see it in vegetable oil, grapeseed oil, corn, all those types of things. And they're actually in an abundance in the foods that we're eating today. So an omega-3, as you know, is mainly just wild-caught oily fatty fish. So that ratio is, we're designed to have 1 part omega-6, 1 part omega-3. But of course, in the area of science and health, the recommendation is that we not have any greater than 3 parts omega-6 to 1 part omega-3. So anything above that is pro-inflammatory, and that's what we know, or we call chronic inflammation. And it often is silent unless it appears in a condition like endometriosis, where you have starting to have symptoms of inflammation. And the reason we're seeing this increase in this ratio over the course of time is because our diet has changed so dramatically. So if you think back on how our grandparents and great-grandparents were eating, it's vastly different from the foods that we're eating today. We live in a modern, fast-paced world where convenience foods are so readily available. And of course, the animals that we're eating are farmed, so they're being fed pro-inflammatory foods as well because they're feeding them corn and soy. So we've moved so far away from how agriculture, nutrient-dense soils, we use far more pesticides. There's so many things that are bombarding our bodies and impacting the way we eat today. And of course, the multinational food companies are producing foods that are laden with omega-6. And of course, we're consuming far too omega-6 and we're not getting enough omega-3. Now, these essential fats are exactly that. They're essential to life and we need them in balance. And that's what I want to share with you. So it does affect your body in all cells. So specifically for women with endometriosis, we're looking at, the uterus, and we're looking at inflammation, but it's affecting every single cell in your body. So whether that is in a joint cell, a skin cell, a brain cell, a heart cell, this is starting to impact you. So what happens is we're just a collection of cells, and the cell has a membrane around it. And that membrane is made up of essential fats. So if we don't have the essential fats correct in that balance of 3 to 1 or lower, what happens is there's not enough omega-3 on the surface space of the cell. So that causes a rigid, hard membrane to appear. So what happens is then other nutrients don't enter the cell as readily. The mitochondria are compromised, the cell signaling is affected, and of course, toxins and waste aren't as readily able to escape. So what we're left with is a malfunctioning cell, and this is pro-inflammatory, and all the cells are interconnected through the extracellular matrix, and over the course of time, that's what starts to degenerate. So yes, these women will have chronic inflammation, but it's also affecting other aspects of their body as well. So we know that we can have a huge impact on not only putting a brake on the inflammatory cascade by restoring cellular health, but we're also allowing these women to have improved longevity. So they're reducing their risk of other chronic diseases developing as well. So what we're aiming to do is get omega-3 into the cell membrane. And in order to do that, we need to deliver it there. So a lot of people know about fish oils, but I really want you to understand that not all fish oils are equal. So we're going to explain why. Because why is it that when we're testing people today, we're seeing inflammation still, but they're taking omega-3 products. So once we get the omega-3 into the cell membrane, obviously it starts to soften and makes it more supple. Nutrients readily flow in. This reduces oxidative stress, which reduces further inflammation. The toxins are readily escaping the cell. So those cells actually go on and multiply, and they reproduce themselves. So they're going to start replicating healthy cells. We've changed the cellular structure completely. We're putting a brake on the inflammation, and the body starts to heal itself from a cellular level, which is extraordinary. So, as I mentioned, it starts to affect all aspects of your life. If you are out of balance with these essential fatty acids, from your cognition to brain fog to memory, mood, cardiovascular disease, skin elasticity, the organs start to be affected, and of course, achy joints and muscles. They're also, most people just think that that's a sign of aging. It's not. It's actually inflammation, and that's what we want to change. So I guess the question tonight really is, do you want to know if you're sitting in that danger zone? Like, is your ratio high? And it's important information to have because we know that we can do something about it. So Zinzino came up with a very clever solution, and it's called a balance test. And it's like a blood glucose, essentially. Like, it's designed to be done at home. It's very easy to do. It's just a quick finger prick blood test, and we put 2 drops of blood onto filter paper, and the filter paper is sent off to an independent third-party laboratory in Norway. That's very important. It's not owned by Zinzino. All the major research universities around the world send dry blood spot to this science lab in Norway because of their reputation and the accuracy of the testing. So we're analysing the red blood cells, which is far more accurate than looking at plasma. So it's a really big indicator of the last 120 days of your dietary intake and understanding what's happening for you at the cellular level. Now, we've tested over 1.3 million fatty acid profiles now. So we have the largest database of its kind in the world. And as you can see, the data that's been collected, this is not just happening for us here in our country, but throughout the world. Globally, we have a problem. And that is why Zinzino have recognized this global deficiency and come up with a solution. So my personal test is what got me very excited and involved, because I had been taking an omega supplement for 20 years when I got tested, and my ratio came back 8.5 to 1. So that was like, I couldn't believe it. And when we look and do a much deeper dive into the statistics, as you can see, I was a user of omega-3. You can see there clearly that my result fits in with what they're seeing globally in those statistics. Now, if you're not using omega-3s and you're just eating your modern day diet, you can see that the data is coming back. On average, people have a ratio of 14.8 to 1. And what we need to have for optimal health to control inflammation and control this driver of endometriosis is we need to get that ratio below 3 to 1. Okay. Now I'm going to explain to you why other users of omega-3 are a little bit better than people who are just eating without sourcing a supplement, but it's completely far off track from where it should be. And that's why we find these women who are taking, they still have chronic pelvic pain. So we need to educate them and say, okay, let's offer you a solution with a product that we know actually will work, because we know that if you use the formulation that Zinzino have come up with, which is called the Balance Oil, in 120 days, when we take that second test, we see that the ratios are 2.8 to 1. So we're bringing people back into balance and we're restoring cellular health. And as a consequence, physiologically, changes will be taking place, which is great. This is just an example of a woman, 35, who I did take a test on. Her first ratio came back at 11.3 to 1. Her omega-3 index was only 4.8. It should be 8%. And after 120 days on the balance oil, she was 3.9, and her ratio, her omega-3 index was up, on its way up to where it should be. So not quite there, but definitely on her way. But the most important thing that we see and hear from these women is that in their very first cycle after starting the balance oil, it's the pain, it's the reduction in the symptoms of endometriosis that these women are reporting at having a far less painful period. So they might be rating it like 10 out of 10. And within their first and second cycle, they're saying their marker is down to about a 2 or a 3. And so that's well and truly before we've got that second test. So they're already seeing the physiological changes because it puts a rapid brake on the inflammatory cascade. Here's another result, 19.1, 120 days later, 2.5. Even higher results, and these are women who are wanting to go on and have a baby. This is very high, 39 to 1. And after 120, well, that wasn't even 120 days. We tested her very quickly because she was starting treatment, and she wanted to know. But as you can see, changes take place very quickly, 5.7. It's really important to know that this concept is backed by a scientific advisory board. And these are some of the smartest minds in the world of pharmaconutrition. We also have an in-house research and development team. And of course, we are using the world leader in blood spot testing. So I just wanted to share a few more testimonials with you from women who I've helped. This is Laura. Her ratio was 8.5 when I tested her. She'd had period pain and experienced horrible debilitating pain her whole life, where she was taking time off work, curling up in a ball with heavy periods. And a lot of these women are dependent on medication, okay? They're living on pharmaceutical drugs to deal with the pain. She was always exhausted, and she'd had multiple visits to doctors, and naturopaths tried every superfood supplement known to man, and she just didn't have a solution, and she felt like she wasn't able to get on top of things. Thankfully, she stumbled across Zinzino balance oil, and after 3 months for her of taking 10 mils a day, she had a period where she could feel like she could function like a normal human being. It really had transformed her life, and she puts it down to the incredible properties that the balance oil has and the ability to reduce her inflammation and symptoms that she was experiencing every single month. So I've definitely changed how she's being able to manage her life on a day-to-day basis, which is extraordinary. Now we go on to share Kate's story. Kate's first ratio when I took hers was 13 to 1. She just wanted to say thank you. And when she got her period, this was a little text message I got from her, that she only had to take pain relief once, not every 8 hours when it wears off, and rely on heat packs overnight. So for her, it's made an enormous impact. She's not as bloated and really relieved. Diane's ratio was 19.3 to 1. She'd had chronic pain for many years, in fact, 32 years. And when she got her period, she had no period pain. So she was in shock. And she had only been on the balance oil for 5 weeks when we got this result. So that was life-changing for her as well. So we know that supplementation and using various products is very safe. And the message that I want to get through to people is that this is actually an affordable option for you to try. And we know that it's been recognized as something that can complement what you're doing in your treatment for endometriosis. So let's look at the balance oil and understand why this is so different.
So when the Danish physiologists Bang and Durberg first went out to Greenland, studied the Inuits, looked at their diet, and wondered what was protecting them, they thought that omega-3s were a part of this. And they were half right, but totally wrong. Because what protected the Inuits, what creates this anti-inflammatory condition, is the combination of the omega-3s and the fat-soluble polyphenols. It's a binary weapon. And by taking just one of those ingredients, you don't really achieve very much. What Balance Oil does, it restores those polyphenols. Now you have something that is not really a fish oil, it's more like oily fish. The other oils don't have the polyphenols, they add vitamin E or some other kind of nonsense like that. And it's totally ineffective. It's not the right combination. In nature, you never find these long-chain omega-3s on their own. They're always combined with these lipid-soluble polyphenols. They go together. They lock together. They march in lockstep. And that's what the Zinzino products do. They put them back together. And the combination is so much more effective than the sum of its parts. True synergy.
So yeah, so it is the combination of the formulation that is making it different. So this is not a commercial grade fish oil we're talking about. It's more like crude, oily, fatty fish in a bottle with cold pressed extra virgin olive oil. So it's 40% olive oil, 60% oily, fatty fish with vitamin D3. And that is what is the game changer with this omega-3 formulation. It is by far the best product on the market. When we look at the formulations and we look at oxidative stability index, this is a measurement of how quickly the formulas are oxidizing in the body. So krill oil is very short. Concentrated omega-3 supplements, which is what I was taking before I discovered Zinzino, and what a lot of women with endometriosis are taking. Perhaps they have been recommended a practitioner-only brand, highly regarded and good products in the sense that they've done their due diligence, where they've stripped out all the heavy metals and the microplastics. But what these companies have done, they've added back an inferior antioxidant, which is most commonly vitamin E or rosemary oil or something like that, which we know is not stable long enough to reach the cell membrane and doesn't have that powerful anti-inflammatory effect that the polyphenols do from the olive oil. So cod liver oil is a little bit better, and that's a really popular solution as well for a lot of practitioners. But as soon as you combine the polyphenols with the olive oil, it's the synergy. The polyphenols have a dual role. The first one is to chaperone and protect the omega molecule and stabilize it in the body for long enough to reach the cell membrane. And we know it's stable for 35 hours. And the second role of the polyphenols with the antioxidant property, has an anti-inflammatory effect. So it has a dual role. So it's a very clever formulation, and it's not causing any pro-inflammatory effects in the body, which is what we're seeing with these other formulations. So their oxidation process is actually pro-inflammatory, and we don't want to create more inflammation in an already inflamed body.
As a researcher, we always look to the best available evidence, and there was a paper published in 2018 that concluded that standard omega-3 simply didn't bring about a meaningful change. And that was really where this segue came in. And someone opened up my mind to this company from the Scandinavia, as it was described, called Zinzino. It was a good friend of mine who'd had some health issues and had been advised by his physician to take this product because it was the only one that worked. And I was skeptical, because I'd read every kind of report that told me none of it worked. So why would it be different? And the difference came down to two parts that I found compelling. Part one was the fact that it was test-based nutrition. I'm a researcher, I'm a scientist. Test and analysis is everything that we do. If we can't measure it to a certain extent, we don't believe it actually happened. And not only was there a test, but the test was administered and managed by one of the most reputable laboratories in the world. So this captured my interest. I knew that something different was going on here. And then I looked at the product and realized that there was genius behind the innovation. And the genius was really, really simple. because in nature, wherever we find that omega-3, it's naturally bound to the polyphenol. And what Zinzino had done uniquely and successfully was rebind the polyphenol. So before I looked at anything else, I knew that what we had here was disruptive. It was a huge change to the industry.
And that's why so many health professionals now are moving to this formulation. And it's why I'm working with doctors and researchers and scientists and naturopaths like yourself who understand the science behind the formulation. So not only is it unique in the sense of the formulation, but it's also unique that it's dosed by weight. And this is really important because everyone has their own unique requirements with essential fats, and it's dosed by weight. So this is personalized test-based nutrition. So the dose for adults is 0.15 ml per kilo, and we just measure it out in a little cup and we top it up with water and take it as a shot once a day. That's all you need to do. And for our kids, it's 0.2 ml per kilo because their metabolic requirements are higher, up to 40 kilos, and then they go to the adult dose. So it is closer to oily fish, like I said, in a bottle. It's like a Mediterranean diet in a bottle, and the polyphenols will prevent the oxidation. And the other thing the company are very proud of is that it's completely natural, meaning that the sources of the flavors are from food. So a lot of companies will claim all natural, but the excipients are from non-natural sources. We have a premium oil, which is a higher grade polyphenol, so higher grade olive oil, capsules, water soluble. This again is unique. So people with no gallbladder or have chronic liver disease, they don't metabolize fat well. So this has a patented aquacell in it. It was actually designed in Sydney University, and they have put this into the formulation so it dissolves in water. So you can pour this into a glass of water and the oil droplets dissolve. So it's 10 times more absorbable. We have a vegan formulation for plant-based or people who are allergic to seafood. And it's really important that we get this message out because women with endometriosis, if they are going on to have a baby, then they need to know that it's essential that they get tested because we know that women who have low DHA values, they're also at risk of early preterm birth. We know that it's important for the brain development and the eye development of that baby, particularly in that third trimester where the neural pathways are being developed. And of course, we know women who are low in DHA have a higher risk of postpartum depressive symptoms. So for a mother to be able to cope with the demands of having a new baby, this is essential. And for pregnant and breastfeeding women, it is the 0.15 ml per kilo plus 3 mils. So it's quality product. It ticks all the boxes. It's approved by Informed Sport, which is another highly regarded, it's important. So we have athletes and professional high-performing athletes and Olympians on the products. So it is used for any age from birth to death. It's never too late to start. It's so important because some people say, they're going for potentially they may have endometriosis and they're going for IVF treatment. Is it too late to start? No. It is so critical to start this at any stage. European Food Safety Authority are a strong governing body, so we can make those claims. We know that we're going to assist with normal immune function, normal heart function, normal brain function, normal cell division. So very, very clever. So we know that 95% of our consumers who get tested are back in balance in 120 days. And that was me. So I was 8.5 and after 120 days, 2.4. But for me personally, I actually had joint stiffness. So not endometriosis, but I've gone on to share this with other fertility specialists and working with women with endometriosis and seeing extraordinary results. So for me, I also, when I got back into balance, I do not pick up colds and flus because obviously it supports your immune function. and you may, get a swollen gland or a sore throat. 24 hours later, it's gone. So that's what happens being back into balance. The other product I want to talk about, Rochelle, is the Xenobiotic. And I know that you love this formulation as well. It's a dietary fiber blend that supports gut health and healthy bowel function. It's absolutely, again, unique in the marketplace in the sense that it has 8 soluble fibers. So this is really important because it's more like a time-release blend of fibers that ferment and produce healthy bacteria all the way through the colon. The recommendation is up to 2 scoops, but I always say start slow and low as you gradually introduce this. And because people are not eating enough diversity of fiber, and we need fiber and we need good diversity of fiber to produce healthy bacteria, because the good and the bad bacteria are at a constant warfare. And we want to make sure we have got the diversity of fibers, which this product provides and ticks all the boxes. It is gluten-free. It's completely all natural product. It's heat resistant and it's flavorless. So I just mix a scoop into my smoothie in the morning, and I use a scoop in my yogurt at night. I know parents sprinkle it also on to their kids' meals. You can mix it in pretty much anything. It is an incredible product. With endometriosis, it's really important to know, and these studies have been done, because one of the compounds that's actually produced from the fermentation is actually called butyrate. Now, butyrate is very well researched, and one of the things that we know it does, it can slow the progression of endometriotic cellular growth down. So this is good news for women with endometriosis. So they also have a lot of complications with their bowels as well. So this is absolutely the second pillar of our concept. So using the oil to reduce chronic inflammatory stress and using the prebiotic fiber to restore the microbiome and produce the bacteria that's important to slow the progression of the disease process down. So let's take a quick look at Xenobiotic.
I really like Xenobiotic. It seems like a simple product, but it's really elegant. The design behind it is beautiful. It's a blend of a lot of different prebiotic fibers. Now, the prebiotic fibers, what they do is they feed the probiotic species of bacteria that live in your gut. You have some probiotic species inside you, and if you give them what they need, they thrive, they multiply. But you need different prebiotics to do that. Because these fibers, they get into the large bowel, you don't digest them, they pass through the small intestine intact, get into the large bowel, and then they start to be broken down by the probiotic species in a reaction that's basically sort of a fermentation. So what we're doing is we're restoring these compounds back into the diet, restoring a healthy microbiome, and producing gram-positive bacteria, which have a really interesting conversation with the cells that line the gut. Basically, they're producing compounds which say, be healthy.
Step right along. Okay. Hang on. There we go. Sorry about that. Technical glitch. So, in a nutshell, Rochelle, what I want to say to women who are experiencing endometriosis, or even if they just have painful periods, we have a solution. It is a safe, cost-effective way to support the body and control these debilitating symptoms of chronic pelvic pain, bloating, fatigue, all those areas that these women will share with you and say on a day-to-day, month by month. So please, if you know someone, please reach out to Rochelle. And I think, Rochelle, I also have a link that you were going to share as well with those research articles and some testimonials of others. So by all means, feel free to share that. But these 2 simple steps we know is transforming the lives of so many women. And we'd love to help someone that is experiencing those. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Margie. I'll absolutely have those links in the show notes. And yeah, any further information, that's very easy to provide. There's lots of research, as Margie's shown. We've got all those journal articles. And so thank you so much for that. I have to say, it's interesting. As you know, I run a very successful 6-month endometriosis management program. The core fundamentals of that program is that I get women to take the balance oil and the xenobiotic. And it's interesting. Yeah. Research says that, the balance oil is, the way to go, absolutely, in these things. I have to say I am absolutely in love with xenobiotic.
It is a game changer, a total game changer.
Taking them in conjunction, those 2 together, synergistically just supercharged as the process as far as I'm concerned. And really, the balance oil is amazing at bringing down that inflammation very, very quickly and the pain levels.
Mm-hmm.
The xenobiotic does exactly the same for the bloating.
Yes.
Turns it off. Like, I'm talking a matter of a couple of weeks for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I love it. And what I love about the xenobiotic personally is that I put it in my tea and coffee.
Do you?
And I have mastered the perfect blend of a cup of tea with xenobiotic.
Okay.
It actually makes the tea better.
Oh, wow.
So my magic blend for anyone that's eating, and yes, this is a keto tea, is normal black tea, 1 scoop of xenobiotic, and cream.
Yeah.
And the cream is what makes it really, really good with the xenobiotic, because it doesn't matter if, it's just nice and rich and creamy. Anyway, that's my thing. It works in black coffee too.
Yeah.
I like the coffee with cream better if I'm putting the xenobiotic in. So there you go for anyone out there that wants to try it that way too. It's the most versatile product ever.
Yeah, look, I also wanted to say, like, a lot of women have gone down the surgical excision pathway, but they've still got chronic pelvic pain. So, this is by far the safest, most cost-effective thing you can do for your body if you're looking to reduce the symptoms. And I have women time and time again say to me, why has nobody ever told me about this? Because it's just has had such a profound impact on their health. Yeah.
Absolutely. And in the time that I've been working with you and using Zinzino products, and for anyone interested, it took about 18 months of due diligence on my part, didn't it, Margie, before I jumped on board with you and what you were doing. Back in the earlier days, I mean, as you know, for people that have seen me with endometriosis problems, I have worked in the past with advanced trained excision surgeons that work very happily with me. And we used the balance oil and the xenobiotic as an adjunct to surgical excision. Don't quote me, and I don't want to be held accountable and I don't want to be sued, but there is research that I'm reading that suggests that this combination between addressing gut health and butyrate formation and the getting that omega-6 to 3 balance is actually leading the way and is actually beginning to be considered as a frontline treatment for endometriosis. Mm-hmm. And that is actually what I'm seeing. And the reason that I'm actually can say that it's all looking good is in my very young clients with endometriosis. Now, for those people out there, period pain is not normal. If you are debilitated by period pain, it is not normal. You are never too young to have endometriosis. I am seeing 13-year-olds with advanced endometriosis. Gynecologists, excision surgeons don't like doing surgery on young women, or, very young teenagers. they tend to try and hold that off as long as possible. And that's where I'm seeing magical results with this formulation and this concept, because the surgeons don't want to know about it anyway. So for anyone out there with kids, with young daughters with period pain, don't wait. No one needs to suffer. This is a really good technique.
And the other thing too, Rochelle, is there's no hard scientific evidence to say that surgical excision controls chronic pelvic pain. So, and they're wanting to move away from that and not use it as a frontline strategy. So, yeah, we need to be offering women more solutions and more things to put in their toolkit that can support them on their journey to deal with the chronic pelvic pain that they experience. And this is one of the best things they can do.
And the good thing is it's so easy and cost effective, really.
Exactly.
Like it's fabulous stuff. I just love to thank you so much for your, number one, continued support, but for coming on tonight and sharing your wisdom. It is such an important message to get out there to other women. Yeah, and look, honestly, their husbands and doctors as well, for anyone that happens to be listening.
Yeah, absolutely. Other health practitioners who are listening as well. Yeah, we'd love to speak with them too.
So I'd like to thank you, Margie, and so I'd like to remind everyone to pop into the No Nonsense Naturopath, 6 p.m. every Monday. Next week, we are talking about taking control of your health with testing. Test, don't guess. We'll be looking at not only the balance test that Margie has outlined tonight, but also microbiome testing and DNA analysis. And really those 3 tests practically all you need, I've got to say, when it comes to correcting your health and reinventing your life. So, on that note, I will leave you until next week. Have a good night.